Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling Podcast. Before we get started today, I wanted to tell you about a project we're working on. It's called Project Happiness. Turns out there's not enough happiness in the world. People are so busy looking at the shadows that they miss the light that surrounds them. And so we're collecting videos from people. They're 5 to 10 seconds long, and it's basically, hi, my name's Judy, and what makes me happy is whatever makes you happy. And one of the things I'm hearing from a lot of people is when they see those videos, number one, it makes them smile. And number two, they realize, I could do that. So if you feel so inclined, send a happiness video our way, 5 to 10 seconds long, and we'll make the world a happier place. And what's going to make me happy today is I get to have a great conversation with Luke Charlton. He's a guru at getting clients for experts, whether they're coaches or professionals in digital media. He's going to help you get people that want to do business with you. And one of the things that really impressed me about Luke was he's generated over 500,000 leads. He's served over 4,000 coaches and consultants. And one of the tools he uses is email to get people to kind of volunteer and say, hey, I want some of that. I want to talk to you, which is totally brilliant. Luke, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Amar. Pleasure to be here.
Brilliant. So, isn't email dead?
That's a great question. That's something that I hear all the time. But if you look at, the most profitable marketing methods online, email still comes out on top by a long way. I mean, that's still the main method of communication for a lot of people. I mean, it's funny actually. People always talk about open rates. With email, right? Open rates are declining. I only get 10% or 20% or whatever it is. But they never talk about the open rates of like, a social post, right? With a social post, the reach now is what, 2%, 3% when you put out a post. And that doesn't say someone has read it. It's just like the impressions, right? So people who have actually read it, it would be even less. So compared to social, I think email is still way on top.
So one of my clients, they're a company that relies solely on emails and newsletters to generate the revenue, and they're probably close to $1 billion in revenue that comes from that. And I was talking to one of their teams, and they were saying, we spend like almost half our time figuring out what the subject line is, because if it doesn't get opened, it doesn't do anybody any good. And so, sure, the open rates are low, but partially because the subject lines are totally crap.
That's right. So here's my thing on subject lines. I think you obviously want a great subject line because that entices people to open it up. But what happens after a while is if you send emails that people want to read, which is really what I show coaches and professionals how to do, like entertaining emails that people actually want to read that aren't just pitching, or even content can get boring after a while. That's why people's open rates tend to go down after time, because they just send out a lot of content and that can get boring and overwhelming. So at the beginning of your list, like open rates, your subject line is great for open rates. But over time, people will open your emails if they're entertaining. Of course, they'll open them based on, a lot to do with the relationship with you, though, because they enjoy reading your emails. They won't even really look at the subject line. They'll just open it because they know that whatever you're going to be saying in there is something that's going to resonate. So yes, subject lines are important, but if you just focus on sending emails that people actually want to read, that's more important, I would say.
Yeah, and it's that comes around from knowing your audience, like what's happening for them, what's relevant to them, and that's easier said than done. So why don't you tell me about one of your clients? You can change their name to protect the innocent, and give me a sense of who they thought the customers were, what they wanted to hear, and how you helped them figure out who the clients really were and what they truly wanted to hear.
That's a great, actually, one comes to mind. I'm working with now, actually, I'm running her Facebook ads. And so she is actually, the question you just asked is basically what I do with every single client, right? They kind of have a general idea of who their target market is. And what they do when we first start working together is, even if they're earning 6 or 7 figures, I help them get even clearer on that dream client. It's so critical. I'll give you this example. So, the client that I'm running ads for, she helps authors and screenwriters to basically create a novel or a screenplay
Screenplay?
that that gets published, that people actually want to either buy for a book or turn into a movie. And so one of the things that she was, her marketing message was basically, when we started working together, is like, hey, would you, or something like, hey, would you, love to write a book and get it published, right? So the point is, the type of message that the type of person that she was speaking to is someone that hadn't yet really written a book. Like, they liked the idea of reading a book. Like the idea of writing a book or a screenplay. And so she was getting a lot of beginner people onto her list. At the time, she was promoting like a low ticket product, and the product was profitable, but the problem was it wasn't leading to a lot of high end sales, because the people that were coming through were beginners and they just weren't really good fit for that. The main offer she wanted to sell was like a high end coaching program. So you really got to think about like, what's your main offer that you want to sell them? Who's going to be a perfect fit for that? So what we spoke about was, the person that is going to be a good fit for that program is not someone that just that is a beginner to writing. And the reason why is someone who has never really taken the action to write a book or write a screenplay is not really qualified to spend $5,000. It's a really big investment for them. They're not really
Yep.
invested. So what she needed to focus on was someone who's already invested, say a professional writer that already has a draft. And then I started to get even more specific, and I said, well, why don't we target people who have been rejected, right? Who've actually gone to the effort of writing their whole kind of book draft, maybe even got it edited, to send it into a publisher and have got it rejected, right? So I said, let's create a lead magnet that says something like, 7 reasons your book was rejected, right? So that's an example of. And then we started advertising that and getting a high quality lead. And now we're changing that low ticket funnel to be more directed at that type of writer. And that's a much higher quality prospect, because that if they've gone to the effort of writing a book, they're so much more invested time-wise and financially as well.
And blood. When you're writing
And
a
they're
book,
much
it's
more
tough.
qualified for your high-end offer. So that's kind of like an example of how how getting clear, even on a more successful coach, just getting that clarity. Like, it all starts with the market. It's so important.
So let's go back to that example. So who did you target? Because there's no list out there that says, rejected authors. So, but who did you target? And how did you find those people in order to, certainly the headline and the copy got people to put up their hand, I've been rejected, but how did you know who to send it to or which
Do you mean,
general area?
so this was via Facebook ads?
Yes.
So when you say who did I target, do you mean like literally in the targeting settings? Who did I
Yeah,
target?
because that's always a tough thing for people is like, who do we go after the general public and then the headline gets people to
Yeah.
self-select, or do you kind of be more intelligent and use the system more effectively to get the people you want?
Yeah. So what I'm going to say here is going to sound really, really counterintuitive. And no matter how many times that I say it, it kind of goes in one ear and out the other of a coach. And that is, so with Facebook, it's really with most advertising platforms. With Facebook, the targeting isn't really done with the targeting settings. It sounds, again, counterintuitive. I just so you know, just some background. I've spent over $16 million on ads, so this advice comes from a lot of experience. When I launch an ad campaign, whether the client is helping screenwriters, or whether they're in weight loss, I have a weight loss client that I run ads for, whether they're helping other coaches, whether they're helping executives, I keep the settings very broad and pretty much default. So if we're trying to attract women, yes, I'll choose the gender as women. That's really as specific as
But
I get.
outside of
But
that, you'll go age bracket.
age bracket, I leave in the beginning at 18 to 65 plus, and then
Yeah.
if for whatever reason, like the quality, like they start attracting people like say over 65 that just don't have the money, then we'll start to get a bit more specific. But other than that, I usually keep it 18 to 65 plus. A placements, like where the ad is shown, is quite just on automatic, and everything else is basically stock standard. I might just choose one interest in the beginning, but here's the thing: after a while, the pixel kind of learns who you're advertising to, and you end up really not needing the interest anyway. So Anyway, I just choose like one kind of broad interest. It doesn't There's no kind of magic what size should it be. I
Right.
just pick an interest that I know my audience would be generally interested in. So if they're in weight loss, I just choose weight loss. Something great. It takes me like literally about 10 seconds to choose the interest. Um, so I don't pay much attention to the targeting. Where my targeting is done, I actually just described it just a second ago. It's all in getting clear on the market. So once I get clear on that market, so for example, people that have already written a draft who've got it rejected as an author, then I use my message, my ad, I use the message to attract that person. So with Facebook ads, the targeting is done, in other words, via the message. So for example, in my ad, I would say, like as an example, in the first line of the ad, are you an author who's got your book rejected? Question mark. Would you like to know why? Here are 7, download this free guide and I'll show you 7 reasons why. So the message, I literally call out the specific target
Love
market,
it.
and generally their problem. But I'm trying to, and the headline also of the ad should speak to their target market and the outcome that my free
So the
guide or
rest of the
offer
ad,
is.
do you keep it very light in terms of are you an author that was rejected? And then, hey, I got these 7 reasons why you might have been rejected. Click here to get it. Do you have a lot of copy in the ad, or is it
Yeah,
just very light?
it's yeah. So for a lead magnet, it's usually pretty short. So it might be like 3 to 4 sentences, because you
I love
don't
it.
with a lead magnet, the offer sells itself, right? So what I mean by that is, okay, so the example that I gave before was the 7 reasons your book was rejected. I mean, it doesn't need much explanation. It's pretty obvious what it's about and who it's for. It's for authors who've got their book rejected, and it's going to show them why that they got that rejected. So my lead magnet title, for example, is called and just so you know, a lead magnet for everyone listening is just generally in this context is just a short guide, like a 3 to 5 page PDF that you give away for free in exchange for an email address. But my lead magnet, my free guide, is called the 9 email offers that get coaching clients for free. So that doesn't need, like, it's very clear who that's for. And what it's about. It's 9 email offers that get coaching clients for free. It's for coaches and helps them get clients for free. It's very clear. So my ad is I think it's about 3 or 4 sentences, and that's, I've had an ad promoting that lead magnet that's literally like 2 sentences saying, hey, you're a coach that needs more clients, go here to grab my free guide. Here's what it's about. I like to add a few more sentences in to just maybe establish my credibility. So I'll have a little bit of like, hey, I've generated this many leads, or hey, I've sent this many emails. Just have a little bit of credibility in there. So I find that can boost response, but you don't really
So
need it.
it sounds like you said, counterintuitive in one sense, but on the other sense, what it sounds like is uh, the better seeker of potential clients, is it you or is it the pixel? And the answer is the pixel. And if you let the pixel do what it needs to do, and you use strategies like that, people self-select, the pixel learns who they are, and it does magic. And if you try and force the interest and try and use your intellect to try and game the system, it kind of slows the whole thing down. Have I got it right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, when you say that Pixel does its magic, I mean, it is great in that it has a lot of data on all of us. So based on your past campaigns, it will know who you want to put the ad in front of. But that's as far as it goes, right? You still need a message that speaks to the right person. If you don't have like a good offer in your ads, they're not going to convert. Like no matter how well the pixel is working in terms of putting your ad in front of the right person, if you don't have an offer that people want, your ads are going to bomb. And so the really great thing about what I've just said is, for people, because when I first got started with ads, I always thought, the reason why my ads aren't converting is because I haven't found this magic little interest audience or whatnot, right? And I always thought it was because of the interest, and I didn't have the right layered targeting. And so for the coaches and professionals listening right now, knowing what I just told you, it means that if your ads aren't converting, it's nothing to do with the targeting. As long as you kind of keep them pretty basic, like I mentioned, it's everything to do with your message. Almost like 95% of the time, the problem is the message, or what that really comes down to. It's the offer that you're promoting.
So that's a good place to kind of segue into next. Uh, Here's my hypothesis, and I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes we're so close to our own work that we think is genius, or we think the way we're communicating is the right way. And of course, it takes a lot for people to basically convince us that maybe it isn't as fabulous as it could be. So you must struggle against that when you're saying, but no, Luke, you don't understand my clients. And so tell me about one of those conversations with one of your clients and how you got them to see the epiphany. Because if people don't want to
Uh,
hear they won't. But then sometimes the light switches on. They go, "Oh my god, I totally get it."
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I do get that. Actually, so I used to coach in another coach's mastermind a while back, and I used to get it a lot in in that mastermind because I was like one of the head experts, and but then in my own coaching programs, I don't really get it that much anymore. I think when people pay you a significant amount of money, they kind of tend to just listen. So that's another
Yes.
lesson for professionals. If they, the more they invest, the more they realize I better listen to this person because I spent a lot of money. But to answer your question, yeah, when I'm pretty, I really, when someone comes to me and says, my market is different or whatnot, I don't really, I just give my reasons for based on my past experience, saying, look, you can do what you want. This is your business, right? I don't really try to push them too much, but I'll say, look, based on my experience, marketing is marketing. It's all about getting clear on your market, no matter whether you're a health coach or relationship coach or whatnot. Actually, take a couple steps back. A business, all a business is, right? It's just solving you've got a problem. So the market has a problem and you have the solution. Every business is built on that, whether you're
Yes.
e-commerce or whatnot. And so that's that just in that demonstration, your business is not different. So if you're solving a problem, what do we have to do? We have to get clear on the market. And then we have to create an offer for that market. So I really just take it back to basics like that, and then I let them make the decision on what they want to do. And usually they come around. But what generally happens if they don't listen, they'll take action. Their way of getting taking the action doesn't get results, and then they come back around and then they implement. But it doesn't. It didn't happen that often in that group. Some people were very, very strong headed, and you kind of wondered why are you in this program if you invested like this
Right.
amount of money? Why are you even here? But um, and yeah, so sometimes I had to kind of call them out on that, saying kind of in a nice way, right? Saying like, hey, you're here, you invested in this program for a reason. This is what has worked for all of our coaches and clients. So maybe just give it a try and see what happens.
So, Luke, talk to me about you potentially anybody in the world could buy my product, whatever that happens to be. But we want to help people kind of get down to a niche where they can actually be very, very precise in who they want. And
Yeah.
so there's this like need to, yes, I could do that, but there's a bigger market. What about these other people? And how do you get people to kind of really? There's going to be
Yeah.
more wealth if you kind of go after a niche versus go after everybody. How do you have that conversation?
Yeah, that's such a good question. That's probably the biggest problem that I face with the clients that I work with. So here's the thing: like, running ads. Like I can get results for clients in broader markets. I can get them. Like I know how to stand out in a broad market. I know how to stand out. I mean, it's much easier if your market is more specific. That's why we niche down. Um, and so there's positives and negatives to both. Like if you go to a broader market, you're obviously you can get more leads, but the downside of a broader market is you tend to attract a lot of people that don't have that mindset of investing, right? So that's
Hmm.
why I mentioned to that example before. Like I'm looking for, if we're selling high ticket service, we really want to go after people that have that mindset of investing, that are already invested with time and money. And so when you focus down on that type of person, you'll get a better quality lead. And when I explain that to coaches, then they're usually much more motivated to get more specific. But just again, from my experience on running ads, if we um, get very specific about a certain type of client that we want to go after, like, hey, this is the type of business. Like I get a lot of business coaches come to me and they go, I was speaking to a lady yesterday. I think I'm speaking to her again today. Actually, it looks like she's going to sign up. And I go, what type of business are you working? Do you work with? And she says, oh, just kind of, I help all kind of small to medium. Her market is small to medium sized business. I mean, that is so broad, right? Small to medium. That's like what, 5 million to 50 million. That could be oil and gas companies. It could be people in printing. It could be people,
Yeah.
accountants. Like it's just e-commerce stores. It's so broad. And so when you go to a market like that, your marketing message doesn't really speak to anyone, and so your response in your campaigns is, you can get people opting in, but in terms of like your emails being effective or your webinars converting, like your sales process converting, it's very, very hard. So by getting more specific, at least just getting clear on, hey, what type of industry do you want to work with? So I spoke to her yesterday. I said, are you opposed to getting a bit more specific? She said, no. I said, you know, I gave her an example of like, you could help someone like a tradesperson, right? So like a plumber or an electrician. And just by being able to say, hey, are you an electrician that doesn't have she helps people with websites, like, that doesn't have a website and you'd like to attract more leads. Well, I'm going to show you how to build your trades business. So just by, again, getting more specific on just an industry that you work with and maybe get a bit more specific on the revenue level, like whether they have employees or not, we can create a much more targeted message, which then boosts the response of the campaigns, meaning you get better quality leads, your emails get more appointments, and it's much easier to sign them up to your programs and services.
So, what's the process? So, let's say we were going after realtors. That's one of my target audiences, uh, and realtors that are successful that have
Yeah.
teams. So, what would that campaign look like? Because I'm looking more for the steps after the initial lead magnet.
Like just a general client attraction system, is that what you're like? What, so once
Yeah.
you
So
build
let's.
once you build the, like, attract them onto your list, you're saying what happens next? Was that the
Yeah. What
question?
do you recommend next for your clients? Like, what are the steps? Because going from that free thing to a ten
Yeah,
thousand
yeah,
dollar program is a big jump. So how do you get them
yeah.
from the
So
I like
again,
you to I want to spend money with you or a lot of money with you?
yeah, so maybe a little bit of context here would help. So the way that I do things, just from like my backstory of, when I back in 2013 when I started as a coach, I did a lot of things, and then funnels started to become popular, and I tried um, all like webinars, tripwire funnels, book funnels. I did networking, speaking. I even was so desperate one stage. I remember the other day I did an MLM company, like selling pain patches. Like, that's how
Yeah.
desperate I got. I went away from coaching. I just need the money. But anyway,
And you did do
I tried all
stripping
this.
for leads. No,
Sorry.
no, you didn't do that. I said you did do stripping for leads, but no,
No,
you probably didn't do that.
no, I didn't get that. I did do cold knocking
Doors?
on doors, though.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Um, that's probably the one level above that. So anyway, the point is, I tried a lot of things. I followed a lot of gurus, and I put myself in a hole financially. And so I um, realized what I was doing was not working, and I just wanted something simple. And that's what led me away from all this complex funnel stuff. And I said, what was the people like back in before funnels? What were they doing? Like, what were the people before internet? What were they doing? And it was really simple. It's just like build your list and follow up with that list. Right now, online, that just like build your list and email your list. And again, if you build your list with quality leads, so people, your market with a problem, then you just present them your offer, like your solution, via email. It's very simple. Um, so that's to answer your question. You build your list with quality leads, and then all I do is send one email per day, like one email, and that email will usually tells a bit of a story, which makes it entertaining. Then has value in there, like has a lesson, business lesson in my instance. And then that, once I start talking about the business lesson, it's very easy for me to transition into the close part of the email, which is just a soft call to action to, to book a call. And so I like to keep it simple, by just using regular emails to build that relationship, to build
Love it.
credibility and trust. And then when they're ready, they book a spot on my calendar. It's really that simple. It's not as fancy as all the complex guru funnels, but it's
No, but
something that my clients
I
resonate.
like it because simple is good.
Yep,
And in essence, what you're doing is taking all the fancy stuff out. You're saying, okay, uh, if you're a plumber that needs more clients, we got this PDF or this video course or whatever to help you do more of that.
yep,
You're going to love it. They click on it, they go through it, they build a little bit of trust. Since they put their email in, you're just basically building that relationship over some emails.
yep,
And it's about educating, entertaining, and asking for, hey, if you need more help, click on the link. Let's have a chat.
yep. That's it. It's pretty
Simple. I
simple.
love it. So, so Luke, tell me this. I would suspect the Luke sitting in front of me right now is way more intelligent than the Luke that sat there 3 years ago. Same is true on this side, right? Because we're always learning.
Yep, yep,
So
yep.
tell me about a blind spot you had earlier on in this journey of marketing and leading clients that who helped you see the blind spot? And once you recognized what it was, how did you fix it?
Um, I don't know, exactly 3 years ago. Um,
I was just
but
playing around with that date. It
yeah,
just
yeah,
came to me.
I understand. Yeah, you asked really good questions, Emma. Makes me think a lot. Yeah, so one of the probably the biggest lessons. So when I mentioned my story, we tried all these different things. I actually was living in London, and I ran out of money and had to come back to Australia
Yeah.
because I thought I'd be able to grow my business over there, but I didn't, and lost a lot of money and came back, and and I started. I realized I didn't like the free kind of lead generation strategies anymore, like going on posting, blog posting, and doing a lot of going in Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups, and I realized I had to do paid ads. So I bought this guy's course, and he put out an ad in his Facebook group saying, "Hey, he's hiring media managers like part time." I thought, well, that'd be a great way to learn from him because he's really good.
Nice.
And he, because I think his mastermind was like at that stage, I don't know, $30,000-$40,000 a year. So if I apply for this and get it, he's going to be paying me to learn from him.
Oh yeah.
So I did it, and I got the gig out of like 50 people, and his name's Jason Hornung, by the way. He's a brilliant guy. He's
Hey,
still a
Jason.
mentor. Jason, yeah. And so one of um, my biggest lessons from him is, when what I started watching him is he was charging quite a lot of money to run Facebook ads even back then. But one of the things that I noticed, like whenever I was running ads for him or whenever we brought on new clients, we would always get results for them like right away. Like we would always hit it out of the park, and that kind of like blew me away. And then after a while, I realized why that was, right. And the reason why it was is he was very specific about the type of clients that he brought on board. Like he only brought on people that he knew that he'll get results for. So for example, like he looked for specific things about their business that he knew that he could get results. So for example, one of the markers was, are you already running ads? That's obviously, because before that he used to help all types of service professionals that didn't run ads, that just wanted to run ads, and he had to do their first campaign and build their funnel and help them craft their offer. So there's a lot of things he had to do to get them results, and he learned from that. And he instead started being more specific with his client, the clients that he brought on board. So yes, you had to be already running ads. You already have to have a converting campaign, right? Your campaign has to be converting. Doesn't necessarily have to be like making a lot of money, but at least break even. Just something for him to work with. And really those would, and obviously someone that he'd like to work with as well in terms of their personality. But those two very, very important factors. And if he brought on someone that was already running ads and had a converting funnel, it's much easier then for him to get results and then scale that
Right.
campaign. And it's not really a lesson that he kind of brought me aside and sat me down and said, "Hey, do this." It's just something that I observed from watching him. And I've taken that on board. And just from the very first lesson that I spoke about in this interview, going back to my client who the screenwriters, like being very deliberate with the type of client that you work with, and then building a campaign around attracting that client.
I love it. So we've had a nice conversation. What's a question I should have asked you that would be valuable to our listeners that I didn't?
That's a really another really great question. You actually asked some really great questions,
I'm
and
smarter
we
than I
spoke,
look.
and we actually spoke about a lot of deeper things that I don't usually. Most people are
Mhm.
interested in just like, how do you generate leads? How do what's the email structure that you use? Da da da. But we spoke a lot of deep stuff, which I thought was really good, and I think that's the most valuable stuff that that you can talk about, because that's really what makes a campaign convert. But in terms of your question, one of the questions that I often get asked is Luke, like, how long will it take me to get clients with this system, with this email generating system? And I like to explain it very simply, using kind of like this metaphor or analogy. So basically, imagine This is how you can really think about most campaigns like this, but in particular this particular campaign. So let's pretend you've got 3 dominoes, right? So 1, 2, 3, and to get consistent clients, all you have to do is knock over 3 dominoes. Okay, the 3
Yes.
dominoes. So what's the first domino? The first one is getting someone to opt into your email list. So we spoke about that,
Yes.
right? You advertise a lead magnet. Now, once that's done, once that domino is knocked over, you don't have to worry about it again, because with advertising, particularly Facebook ads, you can just let that generate leads for years, right? I've been using my last lead magnet lasts for like 5 years, so you can a lead magnet will last a long time. To keep the ad updated, you may have to change the image once every few months. My current ad's been running for about 5 months now without any, I haven't touched it at all. So the one point is, once that's kind of knocked over, you don't have to worry about that, right? So that's done. That domino's knocked over, and then once that's, then all you do is focus on the next domino, which is the next action you want your prospect to take, which is getting an appointment. So the first action is getting them to opt in. The second action is getting them to book an appointment with you. Now that is the offer at the end of your emails. If they're not
Yes.
booking an appointment, it means there's something wrong with what you're saying at the end of your emails. The offer is not resonating. So you have to tweak that offer
Mhm.
until they start, booking appointments. So you just keep sending emails until that domino gets knocked over. Okay, I've got an offer now. I've articulated the result that I'm helping them with in a way that resonates. Now they're booking appointments, right? So that domino is knocked over. So all you have to do at that stage is just let your list build on autopilot, and then just send out your daily email to get those appointments. And then the final domino is signing them up to your program. Right now, one of the great things with email that I really love is the prospects that come to you from email are uh, they're very warm, right? So
Yeah.
people love referrals, but referrals still need education. Like, you still have to explain your system and how it works. And yes, there's a high level of trust, but they still don't really know that much about you generally, or about how your system works. With email, it's totally different, right? They know you, they like you, they trust you, they know you're an expert because they've been reading your emails. Plus, they know about your system, right? They know how it works because they've been reading your email. So when someone comes to you from email, they're highly educated, high trust, sorry, and highly educated about you and your system and how it works. At that stage, signing them up becomes a lot easier, because it's just a matter then of like, do you want to help them, or can you help them? And do they have the money, really? So the conversation is much more casual. It's not like a cold prospect. It requires a lot of selling. So that's just thinking of a
I love
campaign
that.
like that. It's direct response principles, but I just like to use that 3 dominoes
So I love
analogy.
that. It's very simple, simple as 1, 2, 3. Uh,
Yep.
on the emails that we exchange with our potential clients, how personal do you recommend we get? Because how important is, let's say, your story or one of your client stories of their backstory to what they're offering? Is that important, or are you just focusing on the client? Like, how do you build that trust and relationship in the emails?
Yeah. So again, I'm not one for kind of setting up this amazing, like, a lot of people like set up autoresponders, right? Like this amazing autoresponder where like the first email is like your story, and the second email is like this part of this type of your story. And um, again, I keep it simple. As you send daily emails, naturally your own personality, your own parts of your own story will come out, right? One day you might tell this story, and the next, and then people will get to know you just over time through your email. So I wouldn't overthink it in that regards.
Nice.
In terms of like how personal do you get? Yeah, I mean, I tell stories. I tell all types of stories in my emails, but usually I'm trying to think of like entertaining stories. Like, you want stories that you think are funny, or you think are sad, or you think that spark, stories that spark an emotion within you. In terms of like, do you talk about politics? Well, that's up to the particular coach or service professional
Mhm.
that's sending the emails. I do dance around politics in my emails every now and then, and some religion stuff. But again, that's personal preference. It's not for everyone. But I would say, in terms of your stories, you definitely want to get vulnerable as it relates to stories around your topic. So, for example, let's say I've got a client, right? She helps women with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome.
Mm.
So any stories that she has around, so she has a story where she went to a restaurant, and then all of a sudden, like, she's in the middle of like, having dinner with, and she had to go, and she couldn't make it to the toilet, right? And so it was a bit of a disaster. So, but the point is, that type of story, even though it's quite embarrassing, you want to tell it because it's related to your
The
particular
topic,
topic.
that
So,
makes perfect
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
All right,
And
that's
then
brilliant.
anyway, go ahead.
No, that's brilliant. So basically, you're staying in the topic area, You're showing your mastery and also your vulnerability as you go through it. And it's just a daily check in with a friend.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. So when you're writing an email, good point of practice is to just imagine, your dream client sitting in front of you, like at a coffee shop or whatever, and you just write. You just kind of, it's just a conversation. It's just exactly just like you would send an email to a friend or family member. Don't overthink it. Just tell the story as you would tell it to them, and then talk about the IBS lesson or the business lesson or the dating lesson from that story, and then transition to your close. It's pretty straightforward.
And so typically, I suspect the email is going to be a page or two, nothing too
Yeah,
lengthy, just as
I
long
get
as
that
it's
question a lot.
enough to
Like,
tell the story.
yeah, how long? Yeah, it's kind of like how long is a piece of string? You just tell the story however long it takes to tell the story. Obviously, you want to be pithy, right? You want to be to the point. You don't want to kind of drone on. Um, um, but so my emails are generally around 300 to 500 words, but there are some emails that will go a lot longer simply because the story needs to be, it takes a lot longer to tell, if that makes sense. But generally, it's about 300 to 500 words for an email.
Oh, love it. So, Luke, a couple of questions before we leave. What's
Yep.
one mind hack that you would recommend to people to make them more productive, happier, smarter, sexier? What would you like to share with our listeners and viewers?
um, a mind hack. That's a another really good question. See, it's funny that you asked that question because I'm all about, and I talk a lot about this in my emails, about not looking for hacks or like ninja tricks or
Yeah,
kind of like easy routes to success. And maybe that is my message in terms of like I get up at uh, to about 2:45 in the morning, and there's no like hack to that. I go to bed early, and we
that's
we'll
just
speak.
insanity.
But it's not like I go to bed at 11 and wake up at 2:45. I go to bed at 8:30, and so for me, in my the way that my body works, I can have 6 hours sleep, 5.5, and I feel great.
Yeah,
But if I went to bed at 10 and had that 6 hours sleep, I feel not good at all. So
terrible.
it just works with my body. But the point is, I guess, if we're talking hacks, just find what works for you. Find sleep is obviously very important, but in terms of your when you sleep and when you wake up, find what works for you. In terms of your morning routine, like you see this a lot, like this, for your morning routine, you need to meditate, you need to do this, you need to do that. If you did everything that the gurus tell you to do in your morning routine will literally go for like 6 hours. Like there's so many things
Yes.
that they tell you that you have to do. Um, I'd say, find what works for you. I do, like, I read the Bible. I read a personal development book, and then I go to the gym, and that's and I do a little some email stuff as well. And that's my morning routine. So I would work on faith,
Look,
kind of something for family with the book. I read family stuff to help me become a better parent, and then fitness, and then finances. That's the email stuff. So in that, by 6 a.m., I've already done those four kind of things. But again,
for
that's what works for
activities.
me. Yeah. So
Nice.
find
And
what works.
I think what I took away from that really was probably the best mind hack. Be yourself. Because we're so busy trying to be like the guru or what people expect us to
Exactly
be,
right.
that
Yeah.
if you find the rhythm where you sleep best, that's the best time for you. And if you've got an understanding spouse, you can have schedules that slightly alter a little bit,
Yep.
rather than we both have to wake up at the same time and do the same thing.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Second
Exactly
question
right.
for you, and of
Yep.
course, this is how I started the program. Luke, what makes you happy?
What makes it actually? It's funny. I was thinking about that question just last night. What makes me happy? One of the things that really makes me happy is, so after I finish that morning routine. So it's about, what time is it right now? It's about 6:30 in the morning right now. So right about now, my family is waking up, and when they wake up, my partner Alana, she knocks on the wall, and I can. So that's my signal to basically come up, and help them get ready for the mornings to start making breakfast and whatnot. So that's what makes me happy is when, I love doing my work. I'm kind of an independent person, but being able
That knock in the
to,
morning makes you happy?
sorry.
That knock in the morning makes you happy?
Not so much the knock. It's going up, and then because they're still you're lying in bed. So it's just coming into the room, and Indy, Olive, who's she's about 18 months old, and then Indy, who's 3 or turning 4 in a couple of weeks. They're still lying in bed with Alana, and so I just go, lie down with them, and we just have a chat, and it's nice to walk into that room and see them there in the morning. So that's what makes me happy.
Brilliant. Luke, I took a lot of notes. Thank you so much for being on the program. I really enjoyed it. And
Okay.
here's what I enjoyed most is you don't know anything. Basically, not I kid there. You everything you do is very simple and elegant, and it's easy to do. And you've taken all the complication out of things. There's a quote from Einstein. I don't care for simplicity unless it's on the other side of complexity. And that's what you've done is just learned your lessons, and you've got a really simple thing. Like you said, hey, the 3 dominoes. That's like freaking huge. Thank you so much for your expertise and your generosity.
My pleasure, Amar, and thanks for thanks for the great questions. That really made me think. So thank you.
So now we're stopping. We'll stop the recording there. But how did you enjoy being on the show? Like, how was this different than other shows? Like, what was that experience
It
like?
was good. I liked that it was. I like that you came to the interview with your own questions. It sounds like you really thought about those questions, and they were different. As I said, I even said it in the interview that to like this big typical like how do you generate a lead, how do you da da da. So um, I just like that we spoke about stuff that was a bit deeper, which I also mentioned in the interview, because that's the most important. Um, that's the most important part of making your campaigns work is not so much the fancy Facebook hacks or whatnot. It's getting talking about the market and getting clear on that. So I really enjoyed it. I thought your questions were great. They were challenging in a good way. They made me think. So yeah, it was a really great interview. Thanks, Emma.
Brilliant. So, what do you charge for your? What are your different programs? So, as I come across people, I can send them your way. I'll be happy to do that. By the way.
Yeah, so I typically have one. I mean, I run ads for. I think we spoke about this yesterday. I run ads for people, but that's generally only if it's a good fit. But my market is kind of beginner coaches, which is not the people that I usually get referrals for my ad stuff. Um, but I usually help coaches, service professionals to get more clients with email, with just daily email.